KTN Prime.
We are not aware that a lady called Samantha was staying in the place where you mentioned.
The Samantha puzzle deepens as police insist the terrorist was never in Nairobi.
The exams drama begins with KCSE candidates arrested for alleged cheating.
Bensouda allowed 2 more witnesses against Uhuru, including a Mungiki insider.
And finally, the Guinea Sekau declaration is sealed as Gor Mahia beats Sofapaka.
This is KTN Prime with Yvonne Okwara and Wilson Mburu.
Good evening to you and welcome to KTN Prime, the most comprehensive bulletin in the country.
Indeed, many thanks for joining us, and it is Wednesday night, so you know what that means. It means Jeff Koinange Live will be going down right after this live bulletin, and 2 words for you, sit back, but let Jeff, the man himself, do it for you. Jeff?
That's right, Yvonne and Wilson. You know, if it's Wednesday, it is the bench reloaded. And we are live in less than an hour's time with a story that refuses to go away. It is Gladys Bosch-Cholet versus Ahmed Nasir Abdullahi and the JSC. It is the boss versus the Grand Mullah. As we all know, the boss has been dealt a body blow. She was sacked from her job as Chief Registrar of the Judiciary last Friday, but she refuses to go down without a fight. Tonight, the 2 adversaries, the 2 arch nemesis will be right here on the bench with me, talking about the issues that refuse to go away. All I can say, folks, is forget G4S. Somebody call Recce Squad, because this bench is one we all need to tune in to see. My Twitter handle is open at Koinange Jeff, SMS number 22155. Start tweeting, start asking the questions and your comments and thoughts, because this one is one for the record books. Yvonne, Wilson, back to you.
It's bound to be a cracker, that one.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Jeff, for that one. You definitely don't want to miss it. And remember, if you're on Twitter, the hashtag is JKL for the show. That's right after this bulletin. Please do stay with us up until then.
Now let's begin our bulletin tonight with Inspector General of Police David Kemayo's reaction to KTN's expose on the Westgate attack and its aftermath.
David Kemayo is now threatening to arrest and arraign in court KTN journalists over their investigative series of Jicho Pevu and the Inside Story that exposed lack of coordination among security agencies in neutralizing terrorists.
Now Kemayo claims that the investigative series lacked a sense of patriotism and bordered on hate speech, incitement and propaganda for war.
The KTN investigative series of Jicho Pevu and Inside Story that exposed how terrorists worked under the noses of security agencies to execute a deadly attack has ruffled feathers of the top cop David Kemayo. Indeed, the public wondered just how terrorists sneaked in a lethal arsenal of weapons in the country and into the Westgate Mall undetected. The top cop says the expose overstepped media freedom.
Based on what we have seen, especially this week that we saw in the media houses, but championed by the KTN on Jicho Pevu, freedom of expression, freedom of media, and Article 34, is very clear that there is a limit that you need not to provocate propaganda war. You need not to incite Kenyans.
Top security chiefs have been grilled by the bicameral parliament, with the president promising to form a commission of inquiry to investigate security lapses that might have facilitated terrorists. An angry Kemayo is now directing his fury at the media over reports on Westgate attack.
Objective reporting, objective criticism is all welcome. But we do not accept and agree on criticism that you cannot be able to account for.
Article 34, subsection 2 of the Constitution says the state shall not exercise control over or interfere with any person engaged in the broadcasting, the production or circulation of any publication or the dissemination of information by any medium. It adds that the state shall not penalize any person for any opinion or view or the content of any broadcast, publication or dissemination.
Don't think that when you are championing human rights, then you are above the law to also overstep on other rights of other people. That should not be the case. And therefore, we are within the law, and we are looking within the law very closely for those individuals who, in one way or another, might have committed incidences of crime within the framework of law and the Constitution, that soon they will be apprehended and appear before their court.
Kimayo denied media reports over differences that emerged between security agencies during the operation to flush out terrorists at the Westgate Mall.
There was nowhere where I was removed. And I mean, me and all my officers that we were removed. There's nothing of that sort. And neither of the services were removed by the other.
Video footage used by TV stations in Kenya showed members of Kenya Defence Forces carrying stuffed polythene bags out of the Nakumatt supermarket during the Westgate siege. The KDF insists the soldiers were only carrying bottles of water and not engaging in looting. This is not the first time that our investigative series Jicho Pevu and Inside Story have angered security chiefs and some top officials in government. Patrick Amimo, KTN.
Now that story forms the basis of our Big Q tonight, and tonight we ask, should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack? Should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack?
You know the drill by now, but we'll rehash it for you. Please just send us a text to the number 22155. Start with a yes or no, followed by a brief comment. Also leave us your name and where you are texting us from. You can also tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Yvonne Okwara, and at Wilson_Mburu, and we will sample your views during this live newscast.
Now, still on Westgate, the police boss says the Kenya security agencies do not have any information indicating that the terrorist Samantha Luthwaite, also known as the White Widow, ever lived in Nairobi. Kimayo refuted reports that came out of yesterday revealing that Samantha may have lived at a house in Nairobi for about 7 months undetected. Here's KTN's John Alan Namu with that story.
An apartment overlooking the Nakumatt Junction Mall in Nairobi's Dagoretti North constituency allegedly was the home of British national and wanted terror suspect Samantha Luthwaite for 7 months. But according to the police,
we are not aware that a lady called Samantha was staying in the place where you mentioned. But we are aware of Samantha, that she is wanted by Kenyan authorities for the previous offense that she committed in Mombasa.
Indeed, a good part of the evidence on Luthwaite's presence in Kenya points to her being in Mombasa. Items such as a short birth certificate with Luthwaite's name on it, what appears to be her son's yellow fever certificate, among other paraphernalia found at this house in Mombasa's Shanzu area, points to Luthwaite's residence at the coastal region. But how Luthwaite managed to get into the country in the first place is a bigger issue. It has been alleged that Luthwaite got into Kenya using a fake South African passport, which identified her as Natalie Webb. Something that ought to have raised suspicion the minute she handed her passport in for inspection, according to security analyst Andrew Franklin. But it also points to an even bigger problem: oversight.
We have a problem in Kenya where it's easy for certain people, many people, to come and go through Jomo Kenyatta, through Mombasa, through the borders, using all manner of official documentation, who are able to take advantage of the lack of administration at the registrar companies, at the lack of adherence to anti-money laundering standards.
That seemingly unaddressed lack of oversight, Franklin says, also aided the terrorists who attacked Kenya 15 years ago, even if the terrorists were part of a sleeper cell network.
If you look at the Al-Qaeda sleeper cell that arrived in Nairobi or in Kenya, in 1993, 1994, and then blew up the U.S. Embassy on 7th August 1998. They integrated themselves into local communities. They acquired identities.
Samantha's profile, though, is different. Hers is a face that would evoke interest, not least because of her apparent role as a jihadist being at odds with where she came from. A manuscript which allegedly was written in her hand found in Shanzu betrays her desire to write a book or manual on how to live as a jihadist.
She appears to be a trainer, an instructor. She would not, in fact, do very well as a sleeper, because she would have to be masquerade as a tourist.
Franklin says that Samantha seems to be part of a growing number of people, mainly from the West, who latch on to terrorist ideologies mainly because of the lack of a strong foundation, and represent the tech-savvy, globalized terrorism that Kenya now faces.
We were able to advertise and give the international community that there is a warrant of arrest in Kenya. Even the Interpol have already issued that kind of warning.
Part of a document on Lewthwaite's activities dubbed Operation Unigov from UK intelligence unit Scotland Yard that shows Lewthwaite's connections, at least by phone, expands far beyond the borders of Kenya to networks that operate outside of Kenya's jurisdiction. But based on a number of places she's said to have lived in Kenya, gaps in security may have allowed the White Widow to spin her web faster than local security agencies could have anticipated. John Alanamu, KTN.
Let's move away from that and on to matters examination. And 4 candidates who are sitting their KCSE examinations have been arrested and charged with exam fraud in Mombasa. The private candidates were accused of being in possession of examination papers. And as Ferdinand Omondi reports, if found guilty, they could be the first victims of the punitive KNEC Act 2012, which is now in effect.
The Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations entered the second day for thousands of candidates, but it could be the end of the road for these 4 who are alleged to have flouted exam regulations. Abbas, Saddam, Hassan and Martha, who are private candidates, appeared before court on accusations of possessing examination papers and using a phone in the examination room. The court heard that on the 22nd of February, the first day of KCSE, the accused persons, together with others not before court, were found in possession of the English paper 2 at the Chandaria Hall. The second charge read that on the same day, at the same time, they were found in possession of a mobile phone in the examination room. They denied the charge. Lawyer Jared Magolo successfully applied for bond after pleading the court to release the accused to go and sit the remaining papers. He insisted his clients were accused of crimes they never committed. Mombasa Senior Principal Magistrate Richard Odenyo released them on a cash bail of 30,000 shillings each, or a bond of 50,000 with a surety of the same amount. This is the first case set to be determined under the new NEC Act 2012, which carries with it revised and punitive sentences.
All these people who are managing examinations have been told to be vigilant. Once they get vigilant, is to prevent them from doing it. And the candidates have been told if they see anyone who wants to make them cheat, they should report immediately. We deal with it.
If found guilty, the 4 accused may each serve up to 10 years in prison or pay a fine of up to 2 million shillings or both. Ferdinand Omondi, KTN, Mombasa.
Now, 40 African Union countries have written to the United Nations Security Council requesting the deferral of the cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto at the International Criminal Court. This comes as the ICC judges allowed Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda to add 2 more witnesses in her case against President Uhuru Kenyatta, including a Mungiki insider. KTN's Edith Kimani with the details.
Kenya has got a strong backing from the African Union to push for the suspension of ICC cases against President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto, and this letter is proof of it. 40 African countries have signed the letter to the United Nations Security Council, formally asking for deferral of the Kenyan cases at the ICC. In the letter, the AU countries argue that President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto need time away from the trials to especially fight terrorism in the country and in the region. The AU, according to observers, are being strategic by introducing a possible security lapse in the region. Under the UN Charter, the UNSC can suspend trials at the ICC for up to a year if the two leaders' presence at the hearings threatens international peace and security. However, the ICC judges are considered to have weakened the African Union's case when they ruled last week to allow President Uhuru to skip some sessions of his trial. The AU letter is, however, just the first of what could be weeks of bureaucratic red tape. But should the UNSC agree to the AU's request, then the ICC proceedings against the two Kenyan leaders will be halted the day the Security Council makes its decision. However, until a decision is reached, the cases against both the president and his deputy go uninterrupted, as demonstrated Wednesday. Trial Chamber 5B judges have allowed Fatu Bensouda's team to add 2 more prosecution witnesses in the case against President Uhuru Kenyatta. The witnesses, identified only as witness P66 and P548, are to replace the ones who withdrew from testifying. Fatu's team, however, has to reveal the identity of the two, with P548 said to be a Mungiki insider. Inside Trial Chamber 5A, the trial of William Ruto and Joshua Sang continued Wednesday, with prosecution witness number 5 forced to recant his testimony that Ruto had said Kikuyus would be transported back to central Kenya.
What were the words that he said?
I understood what he said, that Kikuyu community were to be put on a pickup and taken back to central. That is how I understood it.
But he didn't say anything about Kikuyu. He didn't use that word. Is that correct?
Yes, he didn't use the word Kikuyu.
And he didn't use the word grabbers. Is that right?
Yes, he spoke about grabbers on that day.
Ruto's trial is set to be adjourned on November 1st. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Now, a report released today by Save the Children indicates that child mortality is on the increase in Kenya. Now, there has been an up to 50% rise in mortality rates for children born in poor households. The deaths, according to the report, were attributed to malnutrition and poverty. The report also indicates that children born in rural households and urban slum dwellings are more likely to die than children born in urban rich households. Speaking during the launch of the report, Save the Children Kenya Country Director Duncan Harvey urged Kenyans to adopt simple and affordable solutions to leading causes of child deaths.
There are all factors in the numbers of children that are dying needless deaths under the age of 5. We know here in Kenya that the government has committed since last year to the SUN initiative, the Scaling Up Nutrition Initiative, followed by the National Nutrition Action Plan, and clearly the operationalization of these plans is going to go a long way towards helping to reduce the numbers of children dying under the age of 5.
The Immigration Department is once again on the spot over the exit of a Liberian mother and her 2 children after a Kenyan High Court ordered that she stay within the country. The woman was locked in a custody battle with a prominent Liberian who is the former chairman of the Liberian Truth and Reconciliation Commission. KTN's Catherine Omwando with the details.
On the 11th of October, the Kenyan High Court ruled that Mwawa Kamara stays in the country with her 2 children for at least 30 days to allow her ex-husband Jerome Verdier access his children aged 11 and 6. However, Mwawa Kamara contravened Kenyan law and has left the country for Liberia, leaving her husband crying foul. These 30 days gave leeway for Jerome to appeal against the ruling that gave Kamara full custody of the 2 children. But now, even with an appeal in the works, getting the children back will be a hard task. Jerome, a former chairman of the Liberian Truth and Reconciliation Commission, claims that his ex-wife was sent by the Liberian government to kidnap his children and return them to his home country as a way to lure him back.
Under the current regime, I cannot survive. And the greatest fear is that they will kill me. They have planned to, they have made several attempts to do it.
The former TRC chairman bases his argument on the fact that his report linked the current Liberian president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, to former Liberian President Charles Taylor, who has been sentenced to 50 years in prison by the UN-backed Special Court for Sierra Leone, sitting at The Hague. Jerome claims his ex-wife has close ties with the Liberian president.
If the government of Liberia is supporting her, there will be no limit to the money she plays with.
His second wife, Hawa, says she escaped to Kenya where she sought political asylum. She came with the 2 children in question and her only child with Jerome, a 3-year-old girl. Dorothy Chemtor, who is Jerome's ex-wife's lawyer, confirms that indeed Kamara has left the country despite the High Court ruling. However, she insists that Jerome and his new wife, Hawa, are lying. She alleges that Jerome's new wife left Liberia with her stepchildren without informing the mother, hence the child trafficking charges brought against her. In a telephone conversation, Dorothy further adds that Jerome's life is not in danger and his political frictions have nothing to do with his children, especially the ones he sired with his first wife, Kamara. She adds that a trip that he took to the United States was based on a study visa for his master's degree and not to seek political asylum. Although President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf dismissed Jerome's TRC report, she apologized to the Liberian public for supporting Charles Taylor. Custody battle aside, it is still not clear why the Kenyan Immigration Department does not have any records of Kamara and her 2 children leaving the country, despite the Kenyan High Court making a ruling that she has to stay within Kenya for at least 30 days. Catherine Omwando, KTN in Nairobi.
Now, let's take a reminder of our big Q tonight, and we ask, should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack? Should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack?
That SMS number is 22155, and on Twitter it's at KTN Kenya. Let's get into one now. Eric M. on Twitter, you say, not unless it threatens the country's security. This is the police trying to silence our media. Oppression ended with past regimes.
Let's take another one here. Sidika Vincent says, no, Kimayo should stop taking us to the dark ages when the government wanted the media to air only what pleases them.
Carry on.
My apologies. We are going to take a short break, but don't you go away, because just ahead we have more.
You're watching KTN Prime. Stay tuned, because just ahead, a woman is allegedly nabbed with a TV set between her legs.
Bila aliona huyu amepita, tukamwambia usipite. Akasema akaenda. Bila alienda tu ndio aingia apite, ikamtwanga akaanguka hapo. Akaanza kuzirai. Haya. Kwanza kuzirai hivyo, haya mwingine akatoka. Huyo mzee anakaa Katina anamjua. Akakuja. Sasa kukuja hivyo, akifika kwa watu akamwambia usiende, akangangana na watu, akangangana kabisa yenyewe karibu wakaona akashinda watu na nguvu. Kwenda tu aingie ndio aenda, sasa akapita vizuri kweli. Lakini kwenda tu kushika huyo mwenye alikuwa chini, ikampiga tena, moto ikaanza kuwakia kwao tena akaanguka hapo.
You're watching KTN Prime. Thank you very much for keeping it KTN.
Now, the current woes in the judiciary are the latest in a myriad of challenges that have bedeviled the government for months. But the executive and parliament are equally caught in a web of hiccups that have proved to be a nightmare for Uhuru Kenyatta's first 6 months as president. So what ails the government? Ben Kitili has an in-depth look.
President Uhuru Kenyatta inherited a nation in transition and was immediately tasked with spearheading the unprecedented, expensive implementation of the new constitutional order. 7 months into office, the challenges of grounded Kenyatta and little in government seems to be working. The latest ISO for the Kenyatta administration has been coming from unlikely quarters, the judiciary. This following the Judicial Service Commission's dismissal of Gladys Sholei as Chief Registrar of the Judiciary and back and forth accusations of corruption in the judiciary. Analysts attribute the recent degeneration of the judiciary to a quiet succession battle.
There have also been talk that the CJ is not fully in control. For example, recent talk is that there are commissioners who are much more stronger than him and who can rule him outrightly.
And the executive has been having its own rather unique problems. Deputy President William Ruto has had to drop his duties to attend court at the ICC, and President Kenyatta is engaged in frantic efforts to avoid having to spend a good part of his presidency attending his own ICC trial beginning this November.
Whether you look at it symbolically or in terms of functionally, it certainly has an impact on the way the government is run.
As if that is not enough trouble, the country is caught up in the stranglehold of crime, with the coastal region embroiled in never-ending killings of religious leaders and the attendant riots and lawlessness. Gang murder in central Kenya is spiraling out of control, and the recent terror attack on the Westgate shopping mall has just exposed Kenya's soft underbelly in mitigating security threats.
If you look at what happened at Westgate the other day, it is very clear that the president was most of the time not receiving the correct information.
The executive has also been caught up in a number of administrative gaffes over appointments and other governance issues that analysts say could have been handled better.
And how is he going to provide that leadership? First, by ensuring that he is working with the people who have got the core competencies.
The third arm of government, Parliament, is also seemingly unable to adjust to its new role and to provide effective oversight on the executive. The two sides still caught in old political wars, pitting Jubilee against CORD. It is barely 7 months into the Uhuru Kenyatta administration, 7 months that have been characterized by numerous challenges where nothing seems to go right for any arm of government. And this has led to the disillusionment of many Kenyans. Well, Kenyans will be hoping for better days ahead. Ben Kiteli, KTN, Nairobi.
A report by the National Transport and Safety Authority says the Ntulele bus crash of August 29th involving the city-to-city bus could have been caused by overloading and poor road conditions. KTN's Sharon Mumanyi has the details.
On the 29th of October, the tragic city-to-city bus accident that saw 40 people killed and scores injured spurred a lot of anger and remorse from leaders and citizens alike over the circumstances leading to the accident. The president too vowing to take action.
Sio tu dereva wa gari, hata mwenye gari sasa ataanza kubeba mzigo wa kuhakikisha ya kwamba gari lake linatii sheria za barabara.
Penalties that followed included the grounding of the whole city-to-city bus fleet by the National Transport and Safety Authority. The owner of the ill-fated vehicle, Mohammed Abdinasir Sheikh, and the driver, Steve Sola Mutia, have so far been prosecuted. And today, the National Transport and Safety Authority have issued a report following the accident. The report gives possible causes of the accident as overloading, poor road conditions, bad vehicle condition, and non-compliance with licensing requirements. Cabinet Secretary for Transport Engineer Michael Kamau called for prudent operations by PSV owners.
I wish to advise the operators and owners of PSV vehicles that it is not business as usual. If you cause accident, we shall investigate, and the full force of the law will be meted out not only to the drivers, but to the owners of vehicles.
And to show he means business,
I'm directing the NTSA to also summon the owners and management of Eldoret Express bus company, where one of their buses was involved in the fatal accident recently, to undertake similar investigations and ensure that a similar report is produced.
However, questions abound on what lies ahead for the afflicted families in terms of compensation and what solid plans the government is making to curb the worrisome trend of road carnage. Sharon Mumanyi, KTN Prime.
Right, and we now want to get into the world of business, and in our business studio is KTN's Bonnie Tunya, who has the latest for us. Bonnie, what do you have for us tonight?
Great, many thanks, Yvonne. Of course, in business, we'll be looking at how Kenyan banks are putting efforts to curb fraud, especially in the debit card sector. That and much more coming up in business. JP Morgan appointed as lead investment advisor for Kenya's €1 billion bond debut. I trust you had a good day. My name is Boni Tunya and this is Business. Kenya's Eurobond debut is fast taking shape with reports that a lead transaction advisor has been appointed. According to a report by Reuters news agency, JP Morgan has been appointed as lead managers for the $1 billion Eurobond. Michael Karanja has all the details.
Between 2006 and 2007, the government had planned to raise $500 million by floating a Eurobond. That plan was however shelved following the post-election violence. It wouldn't be until 2012 that the government again brought up the indication that it was willing to raise money in the international market, but this time the figure had doubled to $1 billion. But given the growing government expenditure and ballooning public debt, Treasury has even been toying with the idea of even raising $2 billion when it eventually floats the sovereign bond. Rating firm Moody says there is increasingly bad publicity surrounding the international criminal court trials. This, it adds, could make it more expensive for Treasury to borrow from the global markets. Coupled with these fears is the recent terror attack at Westgate, and its success comes ever into doubt. The reason for this is that Africa is still largely an untested bond market. But the appointment of a powerhouse such as JP Morgan could be the ace card up Treasury's sleeve to get investor appetite back to the right level. Analysts say given the manner in which investors responded to bonds placed by Rwanda and Ghana a few months ago, may mean they'll turn their eyes to Africa more and more.
I think the key thing is to realize that there's a lot of investors globally who need a home to searching for yield, and they're not getting the yield in the normal places they like to go and invest in. And they will look at this opportunity, look at the economy, and they will probably, when it comes to market, they will think it's a reasonable position to actually take.
If successful, proceeds from the bond will be used to finance major infrastructure projects and to retire part of the $600 million syndicated loan signed in May 2012. But continued delays could be devastating to raising that amount in the international market and even make it more expensive. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
Now, so far, over 50 Kenyan banks have migrated from the magnetic strip card technology to the EuroPay, MasterCard or Visa. The EMV was introduced into the Kenyan banking sector early this year to arrest the rising incidences of ATM fraud. Adelaide Changole reports.
Kenya's banking sector has been the target of fraud over the last few years, with analysts estimating that the sector lost 1.5 billion shillings through electronic fraud between April 2012 and April 2013. The funds were stolen through automated teller machines, payment cards and point-of-sale terminals. But with the adoption of the more secure chip-based EMV-compliant ATM cards, banks are curbing fraud.
96% of the ATMs in the market have been upgraded, and the remaining machines are earmarked to be certified or phased out before the end of the year.
The association has set a March 2014 deadline for the complete migration from the magnetic stripe technology used in debit and credit cards to the more secure EMV chip technology. The first phase has seen banks upgrade their ATMs to become compliant with the chip-based cards. The second will see all bank point-of-sale terminals upgraded to become EMV compliant, while the third and final phase will see all magnetic stripe ATM cards replaced with chip cards.
ATMs remain the most convenient way for bank customers to access their cash.
The Central Bank of Kenya puts the total number of cards in circulation as of January this year at 10 million, moving billions of dollars worth of transactions every month. Meanwhile, Nakumatt Supermarkets has launched its global prepaid MasterCard in partnership with the Kenya Commercial Bank and the Diamond Trust Bank as part of a wider strategy to provide cashless payment. Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
Also on the corporate scene, National Carrier Kenya Airways is this Friday set to receive its largest aircraft ever. The Boeing 777-300 will be landing in the country, and Philip Keitani has all that details and more in our corporate roundup.
Kenya Airways will Friday, October 2013, receive the Boeing 777-300E aircraft as it strengthens its long-haul capacity, paving way for the introduction of new continental routes. The aircraft, which has a capacity of 400 passengers and can carry up to 20 metric tons of cargo, will become the 45th and the largest on its fleet. The plane will be delivered on Friday on Kenya Airways at its hub at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by its manufacturer, Boeing. Elsewhere, Pharmacy and Poisons Board of Kenya and Trademark East Africa have launched a new e-portal that will enable the pharmaceutical industry stakeholders to access trade and drugs retention services online. The new development is expected to boost the pharmaceutical sector by easing access to services provided by the regulator to the pharmaceutical industry. The development of the portal has been facilitated by Trademark East Africa as part of its mandate to promote regional trade and economic integration. Finally, Blue Key Software Solutions East Africa has partnered with Portugal Telecom to provide cloud computing technologies for businesses in the region. Blue Key launched SAP Business One HANA and SAP Business One Cloud Database Management technologies in Kenya and Tanzania, which are expected to streamline companies' work procedures. SAP HANA provide a single system for transaction analysis and is targeted at cross-section of organization in wholesale, retail, distribution, production, oil and gas, projects, agriculture, software, as well as service industries. Philip Ketan, KTN Business.
Well, that's where we wrap things in business tonight, Wednesday, 23rd, 2013. My name is Bonnie Tunya. Good night.
Thank you very much for that, Bonnie, from our business studio. We'll catch up again with you tomorrow evening. Thank you for that. Actually, tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. on the news desk. We'll see you then. Let's have a recap for you of our top story tonight on KTN Prime. It is all about Inspector General of Police David Kimayo's reaction to KTN's expose on the Westgate attack and its aftermath. David Kimayo is now threatening to arrest and arraign in court KTN journalists over their investigative series of Jicho Pebu and the Inside Story that exposed lack of coordination among security agencies in neutralizing the terrorists. Kimayo claims the investigative series lacked a sense of patriotism and bordered on hate speech, incitement and propaganda for war. The KTN investigative series of Jicho Pebu and the Inside Story that exposed how terrorists worked under the noses of security agencies to execute a deadly attack has ruffled feathers of the top cop, David Kimayo. He says the expose overstepped media freedom.
A short break right now, but let's remind you of our BQ tonight, and we ask, should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack? Should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack?
Here is one tweet from Njenga Mishugu. You say, for now, yes. Damage control is crucial to stop the rumors on what actually happened. However, answers is what Kenyans need.
Now don't you go away, because we'll be right back.
Wanajua ile keki iliwekwa wapi na wanatafuta hiyo keki iko wapi na wanakuuzisha wewe mdogo mwenzangu. Usiingie kwa hayo, utachomeka.
You're watching KTN Prime.
Eventually, the Kenya Rugby Union has confirmed South African coach Paul True as the national sevens coach. True has been contracted to 2016 in what the union says is part of ensuring Kenya's sevens team will be in Rio Olympics in Brazil. True appears to have had his way in accepting the contract, since he will be accompanied by 3 South Africans. Vuyo Zangaka will come in as the attack coach. According to communications from the union, True will be the head coach and a performance director. Others in his lineup are Graham Benz, who will be in charge of strength and conditioning, and Dr. Karen Schwab. Schwab will take up her appointment on January 1st rather. It is estimated that the union will pay out in excess of 2.7 million shillings to the technical bench alone per month. Now, despite being ranked fourth in Africa, the Kenya wheelchair basketball team may not get an opportunity to improve on their rank if they do not take part in the Africa Basketball Championships set to kick off on the 27th of this month in Angola. The team of 12 players and officials is scheduled to leave the country on Thursday, but the government is yet to meet its end of bargain, that is purchasing tickets as meeting the upkeep and all estimated cost of 3 million shillings.
It's a case of same script, different cast and a different setup. It's now dawning on federations that their intentions to send teams for international competitions will require miracles if what the wheelchair basketball team is finding itself in is anything to go by. The wheelchair basketball team is scheduled to leave for Angola on Thursday for the Africa Championships, but that could be a pipe dream since the Ministry for Sports has kept quiet on their request for airfare and upkeep while in Angola.
It's like you are preparing a team, yet you don't know whether you'll be told now you make the team or you won't make it. It's a big challenge to us.
This comes just a day after Cabinet Secretary for Sports Hassan Wario categorically stated that his ministry is financially drained.
Government has no money. Let's be honest. Personally, me, I don't have money unless you give me.
The team that finished second in their last continental outing in South Africa believes their 3 million shillings budget is not too much to ask for.
We should not look at cross-country, that is athletics, the only team that can bring us glory. It's only that even though a team like wheelchair is given good support, we can make it.
Anytime the Harambee Stars have a game, they get financial support. Why not us? And most of the time, some of us even believe that we are carrying a disabled flag. It's not the same case. We carry the same flag, but unfortunately, financial-wise, it's opposite.
The team has been training at the Nyayo National Stadium Gymnasium. Lynn Washira, KTN Sports.
And tonight it is some intriguing case of alleged shoplifting. A middle-aged woman allegedly almost made away with a 22-inch Sony Bravia flat-screen TV in alleged shoplifting attempt.
Now, it was business as usual at Sound City Limited, an electronic shop along Kenyatta Avenue. 7 ladies came into the shop posing as customers. 5 of them headed straight to the mobile phone shelf and requested to be assisted. The other 2 were allegedly focusing their attention on a TV set which was conspicuously placed for display.
Now, the shop attendants claimed they managed to leave with the TV, but the manager of the shop realized immediately that the TV was missing and raised the alarm. The employees rushed out and allegedly found the TV hidden under the car. They also claimed that the TV was carried out of the shop under the dress and between the legs of one of the women suspects.
Members of the public wanted to beat up the suspect. A policeman arrived and arrested her.
Some women came in, around 7 of them. I was assisting 2 to show them a phone. Then I realized one was pushing something inside there. Then when I realized that, I asked my colleague, the TV was there, where has it gone? I just left the phones on the table. I ran out. I went and found these ladies at the entrance of Simas. I asked them, where is the TV that you have taken from the shop? We haven't taken. Then I came back. As I came back, I told this guy, the TV is not there. The TV is not there. I ran out near 680 is where I got these ladies hiding the TV down there under the car.
I think the big question on this story is how they managed to carry a 22-inch TV between the legs.
Yeah.
Interesting facts. Now, let's take a reminder of our big question tonight, and we did ask, should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack? Should the police control the kind of news given to Kenyans over the Westgate attack?
And here are some more of your responses. Akoko Donald, you say, I agree. Some people still think the government can gag the media, but let them point out exactly what they think is false. Objectivity. Thank you for that. And then a final one from Gitonga Lieutenant. You say, it's very important to filter what gets to the public public, but blatant lies are not acceptable. Give facts, but not all, for the sake of safety. Those are your views tonight. We're unable to give you the poll results, but indeed still going through your feedback. Thank you so much for texting, for tweeting, and indeed for watching the bulletin tonight. Of course, it's smoking after this.
Jeff Koinange Live is up next. Don't you dare miss that one. But from us, enjoy the rest of your viewing. Good night.
Night.